Hi, everybody. This is really nice to have everyone here for the Healthy Relationships and Wellbeing at University webinar. Um, this is being hosted by You Belong, which is a MRC-funded research project at King's College London, trying to understand loneliness and belonging experiences of students. So, from the predictors of loneliness and belonging to how social expectations and relationships then impact these experiences as well. And we are joined today by um, members of the Surrey Sexual Health Outreach team, as well as members of our student research team. And I'm really happy to have everybody here. So I think we can just start by doing some very quick introductions. I can go first, and then our student research team can introduce themselves, and then the outreach team can introduce themselves. So I'm Hina. I'm a research assistant at the U Belong, and I'm currently working on understanding how to measure belonging better. Max, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hiya. I'm Max Morris. I'm a psychology student at Royal Holloway. Um, I got involved with You Belong in order to kind of understand research better myself and just start getting more involved in research.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Amy, and I'm currently a law student at the University of Bristol, and just joined this project because I found that I did want to learn more about mental well-being, and I found it interesting to learn about some research methods. And yeah.
I'm Finty. I'm a medical student in Lancaster, and I got involved with You Belong just because I think as someone who's experienced loneliness, I kind of wanted to learn more about it and also learn more about research.
Can we come to you, Rebecca, and then Emma, and then Natalie?
Okay, good morning, everyone, again. So my name's Rebecca. I'm a health promotion specialist. I work with the outreach team, so that's Surrey Sexual Health Outreach team. I've been with the team over a year now. I am the lead for diverse ethnic groups. My background is in public health, so I went to the University of South Wales and I obtained my master's in public health there. And now I'm doing sexual health.
Hello, I'm Emma. I work alongside Rebecca as a health promotion specialist. My background's in sexual health and maternity, and I'm the lead for people with learning disabilities and sex workers as well.
Hi, I'm Natalie. Sorry about the issues. Oh my God, the phone's going off. This is always going so well. Give me 1 second.
Maybe while we wait for Natalie to come back, I can just go over some housekeeping rules about the webinar. So this is going to be a very, I would say, semi-formal discussion. So even though we will be asking the questions, anybody at any point can just jump in and answer. It won't be directed towards anybody. Feel free to interject at any point. We will not be having a live Q&A, but we will end the webinar with some general reflections on how we felt about the discussion and if there's anything else we want to add or something just for all of us to think about. And I will just begin with a brief introduction to the topic, and then we can jump straight into the questions. So from our own research at You Belong and wider context, we know that social relationships sit at the heart of belonging at university. And these relationships can take several forms. So they can be platonic, sexual, romantic. And it is important to acknowledge the unique role that each of these relationships can then play at university and for students' experiences. This is particularly because relationships help improve well-being and can help with students' adjustment to university, particularly in the transitionary period in first year, where students face unique challenges. So while healthy relationships can be really good, such as sexual relationships can be extremely empowering, on the other side, if someone is in a poor relationship, problematic relationship, that can be very detrimental to their well-being at university. So what we are here to discuss today is how can students have and maintain healthy relationships that can then improve their well-being and adjustment at university. So, Natalie, sorry, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, no, sorry. This morning's not going well. So I'm Natalie. I am a health promotion support worker. I joined at the start of the year, so I'm the newest on the team. I do have a year's experience in healthcare, but sexual health, I'm brand new. So I'm the least experienced out of everyone. So if the phone goes, I'm the only one in the office, so I will have to jump to that. So sorry about that.
That's okay. It's really nice to have everybody here. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I think we can start the questions now. So, Finty, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah. So it would be really great to hear a little bit about the work that you do at the Surrey Trust, and I guess just what you like and enjoy most about the work that you do.
Yeah. So I'll go first, I guess. But we do a lot of outreach work within schools and colleges and universities, promoting our services and talking to young people and kind of breaking down barriers so people feel okay and comfortable to talk. There's so much stigma around sexual health, especially, and I think just having like our education system as it stands isn't like people aren't built to talk about it, whereas we can come in and be those people and hopefully make people feel comfortable to talk at least to their peers, if not to healthcare professionals. It's just, having those conversations with friends is so important. So yeah, we're just really here to promote good conversations and healthy relationships, healthy lives as well. Rebecca, have you got anything to add to our doings?
Yes, I do. So, as Emma has nicely put it, we are the outreach team. So we do have clinical team that deals with the clinical bit, but we are mostly non-clinical, though we have information on clinical stuff, because as we are going to meet the public, we need that information. So we specialize on 4 main groups. That's young people, diverse ethnic groups, as well as LGBT, the LGBT group, and young people. But young people is one that we we try to target, because especially I think in this particular webinar, that's one that is we are mostly touching on, because we understand that in colleges and universities there's more young people in there. As an immigrant myself, I moved to the UK to come and study, so I have faced self-isolation quite much, and I've suffered from trying to navigate barriers on the health system. So working with the outreach team for me has been such a personal experience, because I have actually first-hand heard stories of how self-isolation has caused people to get into unhealthy relationships and even make decisions that are not as informative as they should be. And this is where we come in as an outreach team to come and inform the young people, empower them, give them the knowledge that they require to get into the best relationships. And not just that, be able to identify what unhealthy reasons are and healthy reasons are to start to get into any sexual activity if they do. And if they are, where exactly they can obtain the help that they need, so the support that they need, whether it is with testing, because that's one thing that we offer. We also offer free condoms for young people. We also offer contraceptions. And for me, this information I didn't have on hand. Yes, I know we have Freshers Fair, but a day to get all this information is not enough for me. So that's what we do as a team. We're here to empower the young people on what they need to do in relation to them having a safer sexual experience in their sexuality. That's it. Thank you.
I was just going to
Tally.
add,
Yeah.
no, I was just going to add a little bit, was just everything we do is free and confidential. So I think, especially for young people, sexual health specifically can be very daunting. It can seem, you know, like a very invasive procedure when it really isn't. And that's what we want to get across to young people, is that it is a comfortable environment and it's a safe environment and completely confidential. It doesn't have to go through your parents or your guardian. So yeah.
Right, thank you so much. The next question that I have is like, well, a lot of research has shown that healthy relationships are really key to having better well-being at university. So, in your experience with students or young people, what are just some general key characteristics of good relationships?
Should I take that one? So do you mind repeating the question again? Sorry, just I.
Oh, yeah, of course. So in general, in your experience with students and young people, what are some key characteristics of good relationships?
Okay, so the definition that we often take for what a healthy relationship or sexual health is one that who has given us, or the one that has defined who defines sexual health as, and that is just not physical, but as well as somebody's mental and social well-being. So when it comes to what should characterize a healthy relationship for a young person, that's what we always infringe on or bring out when we go into our workshops, our trainings, and our outreaches, for young people to not just look out for the physical aspects, but make sure that their mental health is taken into consideration as well as their sexual health. So whether it is them getting into a relationship and they are making decisions pertaining to their sexuality, whether they depending on what identity that they use to identify themselves, whether they choose not to have sex, whether they like the kind of people that are different to other people. It's mostly boils down to that particular definition. You are not just obtaining the physical pleasurable safe experience, but your mental health is taken into consideration as well as the social well-being. So when you're coming to making that decision of you getting into a relationship, a healthier relationship for us boils down to those three core values.
Yeah, and I also think it's so important to have mutual respect. So we've got like friendship, relationships, whatever whatever relationship you're having with someone, making sure that both everyone values each other's boundaries and needs, and understanding your partner or your friend's needs and desires without compromising your own. Ultimately, looking after yourself is key. And if you're not looking after yourself, then you're compromising your what you want. So yeah, ultimately looking after you is most important, but then exploring each other's boundaries and what you both want from something. It's just communication, isn't it? You have to be communicating ultimately.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that is allowing yourself to be authentic and just to be who you truly are, because especially as young people, there's a lot of peer pressure to get into relationships or be a certain way in a relationship, or maybe be pushed into relationships that you don't want to be in. So it's about having that communication, being able to be your authentic self and allowing your partner to be authentic, so you can be truly loved and appreciated.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that is really helpful to think about and relates a little bit to the next question of what's the other side of the continuum of what are some characteristics of problematic or maybe toxic relationships, maybe like three big red flags. And particularly, how do students evaluate their relationships to understand if they are in a relationship that's not healthy? because I think, even from my own experience, I think we tend to have a little bit of a rose-tinted view of our relationships, and things seem better than they actually are. How do we deal with that?
Okay, so when it comes to characteristics, the very opposite, I think, of what we have all shared is you need, because I think one thing that we also preach for young people, always try to empower them, is love yourself. First of all, who's the most important person in the relationship? Who's the most important person in the world is yourself. And therefore, you have to love yourself. Therefore, whatever proceeds from that, whatever decision you're going to make, whether you choose to be empathetic or whether you choose to set boundaries, whether you choose to communicate, in whatever capacity, you think of yourself first. Put your shoes first on, and then think of the other person. As much as you might want to think about the other person, it's yourself first. So when it comes to the physical state, the mental state, and the social well-being, you're putting yourself first. Characteristics, like if you're choosing to get into any sexual activities, right? You are then having to think, why am I doing this? And if you're looking at your reasons coming out, or they come off as you want to please the other person, or time, I feel like I need to get into this relationship. Most of those reasons are giving more of you are empowering the other person and not yourself. Sex is meant to be, or sexual relationships, or healthy relationships rather, are meant to be a personal choice. They're meant to not to be free of coercion and free of being forced. So you want to take a step back and reflect a lot, think about the decisions that you're taking up, even for couples that choose to not be sexually active, they still need to make decisions that proceed to core values or stuff that in their relationship are good for them, that they want to put into practice, right? But again, it's still coming back to that. Am I happy with this decision? Is it because I want to do this? Am I empowering, or am I being forced to do this? Is there any influence that is coming from the outside that is making me make this decision? So we are looking at self-isolation today as a topic of discussion. So as much as you want to go out and make relationships with anyone, whether it's somebody that you fancy or friends, you want to look at the reason why you are doing it, because half the time when we use our social being or the physical part, we forget our mental state and how it might be detrimental to us. So characteristics, fruits of that will proceed obviously to what it will look like, but in the background, you want to think of the root work of why you're making that decision and how it will affect you, not just physically, mentally, as well as your social well-being.
Sorry, I just had to answer the door, but so I missed the beginning bit, but just going back to like 3 red flags, when I looked at the questions, what I was really thinking was sort of controlling behavior being the key. Obviously, Rebecca, I think you just touched on that as well. And then also, I think it's a real, like, we use gaslighting really as a, gaslight, like, it's really kind of quite casual now, but actually gaslighting is really, really awful. And I think we can flippantly use it. Like, I think everyone just kind of can just use that word, and actually it can be so damaging for people in those in relationships. So just when your feelings are kind of basically being like not true, being told, and I think we need to really like watch out for that. I think, yeah, it's one of those things where if you're not self-confident, that will really like knock you to the bottom. It's really awful. And then obviously like stuff like extreme jealousy, constant accusations, checking your phone, wanting to know where you are all the time. And it's you have to be able to speak, have someone to speak about that with, to sort of put yourself, if that was your friend, how would you help them, and that's how you help yourself, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think Rebecca and Emma said it really well. I think it's just, building on that is, think about it from a perspective of if you were a friend looking in on that relationship, how would you feel about X behavior, Y behavior? But also speak to your friends about something that may have happened or something your partner said or did that made you feel uncomfortable. Speak to people you trust, and yeah, try and gauge it from that. Because like you said, Hina, it's often in a relationship you can feel quite besotted and rose-tinted goggles sort of, you know, looking at it. So really try to get other people's perspectives that you trust. And yeah, look out for controlling behaviors, physical and emotional. Like Emma said, anything to do with controlling your phone or communication devices, financial control, withholding money, anything like that.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really good points to keep in mind. I just wanted to come back to Emma once, and I think, yeah, because you said like the word gaslighting has been used so colloquially these days, and so would you mind just sort of walking us through what it means to gaslight, just so that we can put that into context and see what it actually might mean in a relationship?
Yeah, so it occurs when, like, I'm gonna so there's someone in the relationship is the abuser, makes you doubt your own feelings and your own reality. So stuff like denying things that happen, questioning your memory, or insisting events or conversations never took place, which it'll make you feel unsure, and then you then doubt yourself, and then you ultimately, that what happens is you end up apologizing, and you're saying, oh God, it was me, like, and yeah, you can see how it goes into such an easy, it's such a good way of controlling someone by just denying how they're feeling. And it's always you being blamed for your actions, so they shift responsibility.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Yeah. Max?
Yeah, thank you. Following on from that kind of theme of those toxic relationships, I think the next question that we think it's appropriate to ask is, what can students do if they feel unsafe or unwell in a relationship, in terms of general tips that you may have for them, as well as support services that you might point them towards, or support that you yourselves might provide to them?
So by seek support, and that's obviously so much easier said than done. Sometimes we don't have support networks, so I've got a list of places. Well, I'll go through that at the end, well, like after I've spoken for a bit. But family and friends ultimately will be probably most people's most easily accessed. But if you don't have that around you, we do have obviously professionals and support services. What you kind of need is someone else's perspective, don't you? Like to say, oh, I think this is happening. And actually sometimes just someone reassuring you that actually, yeah, this sounds really bad is so helpful, and it can, you know, take you one step closer to kind of getting out of that relationship or situation that you're in. Also, depending on what it is, say it was like domestic violence, if you talk to a professional, what they will kind of help you come up with is like a kind of an exit route, an escape plan. So it's like a safety, sort of your safety netting. So if you are in those situations, you have a plan, rather than just kind of going, I actually don't know what to do. Just knowing that in the back of your mind can just help so much. So going through a few places, I haven't got phone numbers, but places that we use and know about. So National Domestic Abuse Helpline, all of these are found on Google. So Solace, which is a sexual assault support place, and SARC, which is Surrey Sexual Assault and Rape. Sort of, it's like they have like forensic rooms, they'll have counselling and guidance and support for after. They're amazing. You can, if you say you were sexually assaulted, you can have they can do all the swabs if you want to, you know, have evidence and proof, but they'll store it for 2 years. So if you weren't feeling comfortable or didn't feel confident enough, if you didn't want to pursue it, they can keep it for 2 years. So maybe in a year down the line, when you've had maybe some counselling or you've spoken to more people, they will have that sort of all of the evidence. They're just there ready for you if you do want to use it. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. No one will push you. Just that service is amazing. Mind have a really good couple of pages about relationships and about the dangers you can be in and just about your mental health and where you can go from there. Obviously, we have the police and GPs, health professionals, our sexual health services will all provide support. So and also Gallup, which is GALOP, which is the LGBTQI plus sort of place to go if you are in that group and are now struggling as well. So there are a lot of places that can provide help, and our services, obviously in Surrey, we will help as well. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got. Has anyone got anything to add?
Yes, I do. So that's like, so on the what I would call there's a public health sort of module that we use when it comes to interventions for people that are going through stuff. So that's what Emma has picked out, is more on the community and the policy bit. Then there's also the personal attributes. So you need to look at under intersection. I think it's interpersonal society. But when you look at the middle of all that is you yourself. So in such situations, I think it's also important, before we can outreach to like the help that we need, to start with yourself first of all, which is reflecting. So taking yourself through the process or understanding that firstly, conflicts are going to happen in relationships. It's normal to have conflicts. Everybody has conflicts, just as we have conflicts with our partners, our friends, our sisters and our brothers. Equally, conflicts are and will happen in relationships, and you're not the first person to. So be kinder to yourself, understanding that this is a process that is normal to life. And then proceeding with now loving yourself, which is now forgiving yourself. So because probably there's things that have been shared in that relationship, but on both ends, that you might have put in on the other person. So forgiving yourself is one of those that also you need to practice, just that it's okay. The experience is not okay per se, but it has happened. Forgive yourself. And I feel like that then will help you connect to friends, family better, and even outsource information. Because when you do it with yourself, when you love, because that is loving yourself at the end of the day, you're communicating with yourself, you're speaking to yourself, you are understanding yourself better. So when you're put in rooms or conversations where you have to open up, it's easier because you've done the personal work already to identify the problems that you are faced with, and easier for you to then open up and even reach out to people that are more useful for you. So yes.
Yeah, no, I think both of you said it really well. The only other stuff that I was thinking of was, if you're not in immediate physical danger, then sort of assess the situation. What I was going to say was, based off what Rebecca said, was there's always going to be conflicts in relationships. It is inevitable, sadly, but it's about working through that and communicating with your partner. If this isn't a physically abusive situation, then it's about communicating, being able to sit down, talk about it, trying to move on, understanding their perspective. And sometimes relationships aren't supposed to continue. That's something that Rebecca talks about. When we go to schools, we have a slide talking about relationships, and Rebecca says some relationships aren't meant to continue, and it's true. Sometimes it's just not going to work out. So I think it's about assessing that, communicating with your partner, and understanding, is this a relationship healthy enough to continue, or is it just something that we should end? Because they do happen, you lose friends, you lose partners throughout your life. So yeah, it's being able to understand that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, The next question is like generally you in your line of work you will see a range of young people, so like from different minority backgrounds or if they identify as LGBTQ. So in general, what kind of challenges or strengths have you observed from these relationships where kind of gender, race, and ethnicity and sexuality kind of intersect?
Is that in terms of relationships or just like sexual in general? Would you mind asking the question again, maybe?
Oh yeah, of course. So in general, what are the unique challenges or strengths that you have observed from relationships where gender, race, ethnicity, and sexuality intersect?
Okay, so strengths for, because I'll speak for diverse ethnic groups. Maybe let me start with the weaknesses because it's easier to come from there going to strengths. So with weaknesses, there's so many barriers when it comes to diverse ethnic groups because obviously it's different groups that we're dealing with, and culture-wise, religion, how they perceive some stuff, belief system, especially when it comes to sexual health, is quite different. So later on, putting them in one room is a dream. It's a dream. Not impossible, but it definitely is a dream. So when it comes to providing or understanding the types of relationships that they have, then boiling it down to sexual health is it's a mountain to climb because relationships are perceived different in different religions and cultures. So if we're looking at what a healthy relationship will look like in one ethnic diverse group to another, it's different. So we have to have always to understand that. So it's basically a barrier. So the barrier here is the perception of relationships. When you speak to one other group, they have a different understanding of what health relationships should look like according to their culture. Take it to another group, it's a different group. So when we are going in as an outreach team and talking about sexuality, what health relationships should look like, what they should look out for, we have to tailor it down to their belief system, the cultures, which is it's not really a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. We are managing as a team to try and reach their needs. Essentially, that's why we're here. I think the strengths is the differences themselves. It's nice to learn what they practice, what they're doing. And then when it comes to building up initiatives to help them, I think that's where it's most for me, honestly, I love to learn. I love to experience new stuff. I like to see what other people are doing. A challenge for me is always another opportunity to sort out a situation, and bring help to this particular group. So I hope I have answered the question to the best. That's for ethnic diverse groups. I'm sure maybe Natalie can talk about LGBT, maybe what challenges and strengths they have. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's okay. Yeah, so looking at this question, the main sort of things I thought about were in the LGBTQ plus group, there can be a lot of internalized homophobia. I've seen it sometimes with gay men or lesbian women, who one person in the relationship may be more accepting and open about their sexuality and understanding, when the other person is still trying to deal with it and has a lot of internalized homophobia. I've seen it a few times with a gay man who isn't accepting that they're in a gay relationship, even though they are, or a lesbian woman not wanting to be seen as in a lesbian relationship and sort of wanting to have it be perceived more as a straight relationship. And it's difficult. Also, there's the issue with straight men wanting to date trans women, and I think there's so much societal pressure and the messaging out there is so negative, and it can be really difficult for both parties to sort of deal with that relationship, especially if you're a straight man dating a trans woman, having supportive friends and friends that aren't going to be belittling you and what, you know, you being perceived as a gay person or a gay man when you're dating a woman. It is an issue, but it's, yeah, I think that was just sort of my perspective from it, from the LGBT side of things.
Yeah, and I also think if you can look in like friendships and relationships, you have like, say, someone on the autistic spectrum, so neurodiversity, you'll have it can be really hard to sort of understand how they are seeing things in your way. So it's about like allowing like kind of exploring each other's sort of thought processes and giving people time and space to say, like, actually, when it is really loud, it really stresses me out, and if I feel off with you, I seem off with you, then actually it's just because I feel stressed out, and it's not you. But it's just if you can have that conversation explaining how some certain things make you feel, it opens up a whole horizon for everyone to kind of be able to be on the same page. So it is, again, we always talk about it, open conversations and being able and feeling safe to be able to say these sort of things. It's not easy, and we don't take that for granted. When we're doing any session, it is hard. We know it's hard, but we hope that we can create safe spaces for people to be able to say like what they find difficult, what their challenges are, and we can help them, you know, maybe explain it to other people in a better way, rather than other people just thinking like you're being rude or however it's perceived. Because most of the time it isn't rudeness, it's just how they have to deal with it at that point. And yeah, so open conversations is being able to listen as well. Listening's so key.
Yeah, so just to add on, sorry, on ethnicity and young people, I think that's the intersectionality here. So it's ethnicity and young people. We do see a lot of young people when we go on outreach sessions or training sessions, we do see some young people, and some of the strengths that we've seen is, if you look at our group right now, it's quite diverse in terms of race and just age-wise. We have two other colleagues that are not with us right now, and that's Ian, our manager, and Emily. So when we are out, we have so many people coming in because of the faces that we have. They're more comfortable to sing. I think that's a strength that we have. And then a weakness would probably be now trying to merge the knowledge that they have of the sexual health and what services we have, because other people look at us and look at the NHS logo and think, especially for people from different ethnic minority groups that have just come into the country, they look at the NHS and think, oh, you know, because there's different health governances in the UK and where they come from. So now it's like redirecting them. As much as we know they need the knowledge that we have to offer, but we still have to tailor them to what they're looking for in the moment, and just kind of slide in, well, if you need any sexual health information, just call us, but here's a line for a GP, or this is a line for this service that you're looking for. So just to add on that.
Yeah, do you mind if I just add one more small bit? Was just going back to strengths, is all of the, you know, different gender, race, ethnicity, sexualities. A big strength of those relationships it can bring you close together if you are of the same race, religion, sexuality, gender identity. It can be empowering to be so intimate with someone of the exact same. So yeah, I think that's a massive strength.
Thank you, guys. I also think it's really interesting just talking about how those kind of traits will intersect, you know, being from different races and having different sexualities, and then you see how those often lead to intersectional issues, you know, such as your race's or culture's rather beliefs surrounding certain sexualities, and then being that sexuality also comes with its own whole can of worms, which I think is really interesting. Our next question is, from our discussions, we do see that sexual health, intimacy, and safety come out as really important themes to consider when discussing relationship well-being. So what role does this play in healthy relationships?
Well, when you look at sexual health, right? And this might pertain to whether people do choose to be sexually active or not. Sexual health is quite important and a broad term, as I previously defined what it actually means. It's more than just the physical aspect, but as well as the social and mental well-being. So it infringes on healthy relationships, because if you are sexually active, are we looking at are you also considering your mental health and your physical state, your mental and your social well-being state in that relationship? If you are not, it still boils down to the same thing, because at the end of the day, that's what pleasurable and safe sex experiences will look like, free of coercion, free of influence, outside influence. Most of the decisions are proceeding from you. Most of those decisions are from you, and you are, sorry, most of those decisions are proceeding from you, and you have to take into consideration yourself. You have to take into consideration about yourself, and that you are receiving a balanced sexual health experience. Because minus any of those, that means it's an imbalance, and that one will infringe in your well-being as a person, whether it is in your personal relationships or going to the outside, the community, and then the broader aspects of life. And then for intimacy, we know with young people right now, they are at an age where they're exploring their sexual health. So whether you are sexually active or you're not, you're still exploring, you're still learning your identity, you're trying to discover more about yourself, how things are done. And then we see that when it comes to the knowledge of the support that they need, the understanding of the, as much as it should be exciting, it should be pleasurable, it should be a safe thing to experience, but there is negatives to everything. So young people are more attuned to, oh, I want to do this and I want to experience this, but do not understand at what measures it might come at, or the disadvantages of doing something. So, i.e., if you're choosing to be sexually active, there is STIs that are most common for young people, and that is chlamydia and gonorrhea. And it is rampant and is common for young people because it comes without symptoms. So as a young person that's looking into getting intimate with a partner or fancy somebody in that moment, and I am exposed to a sexual relationship that potentially I might contact or get something, I should have the knowledge of testing all the time, knowing where these services are provided for. That's healthy relationships in the end, because that comes down to looking after your sexual health, as well as understanding that we understand that condoms are quite expensive for young people out there to be able to buy, obtain. So where can I get free condoms for? Or where can I be signposted so that I can I understand the use of a condom, or later on what it's meant to do, because some people don't even know what a condom should does. The things like expiry date, life show, like that's so new to them. So if you're looking into intimacy as a young person, do you have the full knowledge and capacity to be able to not just enjoy this new intimacy or sexual relationship, but understand the information, or be able to break down the information that comes with getting into some of these sexual some of the privileges that your sexuality will give you. So is there anything somebody?
Yeah, no,
that's it for
I'm
me.
happy. Yeah, what Rebecca said. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, how can students have discussions around these topics that we've spoken about in order to set boundaries with partners and friends amidst the stigma and shame that's associated with sex and physical intimacy?
Sorry, my laptop just crashed. So I think a great way is starting small. If you do struggle with having conversations, is small things, like saying, oh, I like this, you know, just really gently easing you in. It's not easy. Like, no one's ever been like, oh yeah, it's so easy to tell you exactly how I feel. So I think talking to your friends, like say, oh, has anyone explored this, or has anyone been here, you know, whatever it is, and starting those conversations with people, maybe people that you're not in relationships with, more like friendships, will like bring this openness to your conversations, I think.
Okay, so my own take would be safe spaces. Safe spaces. So finding a safe space where you can discuss, whether that is with your friends, whether that is actually reaching out to groups that you feel are comfortable for you and can share some of the topics. You know yourself better. You know what makes you comfortable. You know what makes you uncomfortable. So it starts with you being the center of the decision. So when you find that group that is comfortable for you, even familiar, go with it. And then when it comes to topics, I think this one's more, again, boils down to that you having that reflection moment with yourself, jotting down things like almost having maybe a little journal where you can write down stuff that you are not yet able to speak of or speak to other people in that moment. Because sometimes even when you go to a safe space, it's easy for you to forget things that have affected you or happened in the moment. So maybe just jotting down, doing a self-reflection, loving yourself in that moment, writing how you feel, and then moving on to talking to somebody, because your interpersonal circle and intrapersonal circle can help you move to a community level and even police and find people that will help you better, signpost you to groups that will pertain to the problems. But it starts with that you at the center of it, identifying your own problems, speaking for yourself. And when we go to some of the trainings that we have, I think we have LDs, that's people with learning disability. We have an easy read, and at the back of it is just notes or a bit of sheet where they can just write how they feel about themselves, or if they have any questions. So when they come into clinic on a visitation and there's probably something pertaining to the sexual health that they want to discuss, the nurse is easily able to just access that information and then talk about what they feel. So I feel like in this particular question, it could be something that can be tailored to this situation. So not just finding a safe place to discuss that with yourself. Identify those topics that touch you to the heart, whether it is your gender identity and then pertaining to sexual health, or you are self-isolated, how then do I move? Then now speaking to that interpersonal, intrapersonal group, and then proceeding to community, and then put extra or external groups after that. I feel like that will help with you attaining the best help and support that you need, because you would have known yourself better.
Yeah, no, I think, sorry, Emma, do you want to go? No? Okay. No, I was just going to say what Rebecca said was really good. I think mentioning being in a situation in your relationship where you're made to feel uncomfortable, or there's something that your partner did that you didn't like, in the moment, writing down can be really useful, how you feel. And I think, yeah, using that to then later reflect on it, because in the moment, there's so many emotions, you know, it can be so difficult to actually sit down and just speak with your partner, especially for young people. It's awkward, you know, if your partner does something that you didn't like or made you feel uncomfortable, it can be so difficult to get the words out. So writing down in the moment can be really, really good. And then I think going back later to reflect on it, see how you felt, you know, was it more an emotional situation where, okay, maybe you weren't thinking rationally, or was it actually something that really affected you and you want to discuss it later with your partner? I think that's, yeah, a really useful tool.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think this is all really, really helpful to think about, especially on how to have conversations, and sometimes conversations that can be difficult. From my own experience, I've done what Emma mentioned about speaking to your friends and starting small. Because I grew up in a culture where you don't talk about sex at all. That's just not done. But a few weeks ago, I was sitting with my flatmates, and I think, yeah, the courage to just mention something, and then we had like a 3-hour conversation, and I realized that all of us wanted to talk about this with each other, but it was just about someone initiating it, and then, yeah, feeling like, yes, you can talk to other people about it. So that was empowering and helpful, definitely. Yeah, so we don't have any other questions, but I was wondering if anyone has any reflections on the discussion we've had, anything else you would like to mention. This is for everyone here, so our research team as well as our guests. Anyone?
I was just going to add, just a general point is what we strive to do in our work and what we want to communicate to young people is, even if you're not the person in that situation, just be open with your friends and people that you trust. We want sexual health and healthy relationships to be an open topic that is, doesn't feel like it has so much stigma about it, and you can freely discuss it. So be that person to have those conversations and make your friends feel comfortable talking about sexual health or healthy relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, personal experience. So I was a lot younger, but my friend was, we were just talking, and then I was like, oh, she looks like really uncomfortable. About, we were just talking about, actually it was masturbation, but she was like, I thought I was the only person who did it, and she felt weird. And then sort of it kind of, because we were in a group, and it was like, oh my god, like everyone does it. And it's that sort of, it enables people to feel accepted, I think, and that's so key. And then you feel comfortable, and then you can really like properly talk. And it is just so important to be able to have conversations with people, so you don't feel alone, so you don't feel strange, so you don't feel weird. And maybe some things are a bit weird, but probably if you thought it's over 100 other people, it's, yeah, always have the conversations.
Then
I
my
was
well, you can go in. It's fine.
I was just going to say, so I'm revising at the moment for my OSCEs, which are like clinical skills examinations, and one of the stations we might have is like a sexual health one, and I always find it so difficult, like when you're being examined, and even in real life, to ask people about like sexual health, just because it's so hard to talk about. Like, it's difficult to ask those really intrusive questions. But yeah, it's been interesting listening and hearing about all the really good work that you do, and kind of reflecting on, how it should really be normalized to talk about this stuff, because it's really important for people's health and well-being.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was just going to say, so are you going to move on to a clinical side of things, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just like bouncing off that is, when you do get into that position, is being that person that's showing your patient or whoever you're talking to that it is okay. Because I think being on the other side of things, being the patient or whoever you're talking to, having someone in a position that you trust, being comfortable talking about things and just sort of casually mentioning stuff, as opposed to, I think I'm trying to word this sentence and I don't really know where it's going, but yeah. So when you're in that position, just having that ability to just talk about stuff freely, it can put a lot of trust in who you're talking to. So
Right. So my own addition would be the work that you're doing is so good. I would have loved to have such an experience being a student, and first of all, in a whole new country. Navigating relationships wasn't the easiest at all. And then boiling it down to sexual health was just a whole other conversation. So knowing that there is such work that's being done is such a harmful, it's like a hug to me, because it just this was not something that I imagined or even thought of in the university experience that I had, and knowing that there is this resource or research that's going our own right now is it's a thing for me. Like, I really like, and I just want to appreciate you for the work that you're doing right now, and for probably the people that you reach, to the hearts that you touch. So good, just well done. That's all I can say. That's all I have to say, literally.
I myself probably want to add just two things that I think are so important. One of which is stigma is constant. I think it surrounds us whenever we want to talk about sex. You know, you say the word masturbation, people all cringe in fear and shame, and it's such a common thing. And ultimately, I think hopefully as we move towards a world that is more accepting of sex as a general topic of conversation between people who are obviously close enough, then we move to a safer world for people to exist as sexual beings, knowing how to do it in a safe way.
Yeah.
On top of that, I think I'd only want to add that so many people in abusive relationships are unfortunately told no one will believe you. You never know if someone's going to believe you unless you really try and put it out there. As hard as it is, if someone is going through something really difficult, if you can speak to someone who makes you feel safe, or try and find someone who you think is a safe space and open up there, it could be the start to something really life-changing for you in a really positive way. That's all I have to add. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone has said. Just want to add that and kind of re-emphasize the importance of kind of self-respect in relationships. So like, even though like you have to create those boundaries or else like you might get hurt. Obviously when things are really good, like it's really good because you get like dopamine and oxytocin and all those brain chemicals. But when you're in kind of toxic relationships, there's like it's like these chemicals, and then when you're followed by like negativity, that's like a really abusive, well, or reinforcement of a cycle that's like mimics addictive patterns, and it might be like really difficult to get out of that situation. And so yeah, definitely having those safe spaces to talk to people or having a support network is quite important there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming on and for sharing your insights. It's been very, very informative for me, and I'm sure it will be for anyone who will watch this on our YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you so much, and for taking our time. And yeah, have a great day.
You
Thank you so
too. Thank you.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.